Hey everyone, this is Cody Nickel with Work Grow Thrive. It's a beautiful day in Atlanta, Georgia, going hiking in the forest, and thought I would just give you some tips on how to grow and thrive in the workplace. Today's format is a little bit different actually. I got a question, an email from someone named Anjum, and she wanted me to respond and give her some advice about her current situation. So let me get this read to you. Dear Cody, do you have any tips for new mothers returning to the workplace? I used to work 16 hours a day for over 10 years. Wow, a lot of work experience. I then had a risky pregnancy and got postnatal depression, and everything I worked hard to build up seemed to disappear. When I came back to work, my boss seemed annoyed that I took maternity leave. Instead of finding a temporary replacement, he distributed my tasks among 3 other employees, so I pretty much came back to a nothing job. All I have to do is proofread documents, but any substantive comments I make are ignored without explanation. I also mentioned to my boss that I would like to transfer to another city, which is about 1.5 hours away, so that I can have some more support from my family to help with my kid. But my boss said I would be delegated from a core to a collateral member if I made this move. It's like I'm being put on garden leave. I usually know how to handle situations, but this time I feel overwhelmed. I feel really bad. Do you have any helpful advice? Well, I think the first thing I want to say is, what are signs that indicate it's maybe time to get another job? That'll be the first part of this video. And then for the second part, I want to talk to you a little bit about some things for bolstering and taking care of your mental health. So one red flag that it's really time to get a new job is that your job is not helping you to reach your potential. You're a very skilled and talented worker. You have 16 years, over 10 years of experience. You're working 16 hours a day. You've experienced a whole lot, and you can contribute a lot to any employer who would value you. But now you've kind of outgrown the tasks. You're just doing, like you mentioned, menial things, and anything you're trying to contribute is really ignored. So that's a sign. Your environment limits your growth and productivity. So that's another thing. Not only are there no longer opportunities for you to grow and develop, but actually the environment that you're currently in is a limiting environment. The way your boss is treating you, right? You don't have any substantive task. When you're trying to contribute, it's all being ignored. So not only can't you grow, but now you're being limited, you're being restricted in what you can do. Another thing is trust. If trust is an issue in the workplace, that's a big red flag. It's time to go. Your boss threatened you. He said, if you make this move, you're gonna be changed from a core to a collateral member. What, you can just be thrown out like the trash? Obviously there's trust issues here. Another thing is you're lacking motivation. That's clear, from the message. You don't look forward to going to your job. And maybe one of the biggest things is your health is suffering. You lack energy, and you have lots of negative feelings. Like you ended your message to me with saying, I feel bad. And now we're coming to the section on taking care of your mental health, and we want to bolster the resilience a little bit. The thing about negative feelings cause you to become mentally narrow. They really limit your cognitive flexibility, because what happens when you're feeling very negative, you have a strong experience of negative emotion, your body turns into survival mode, right? It's kind of like this fight or flight experience that we often hear so much about. And in such a situation, you're not able to think clearly. You no longer see the big picture. It's hard to see other options or come up with creative solutions to a problem. So you don't want to be in a situation, in a position where you're constantly having to deal with negative emotions. They're making you feel bad all the time. So you really want to plan how you're going to make this move, how you're going to change into an environment in which you can grow and thrive, in which your contributions are valued and you can receive really the support and the chances that you so much deserve. When you're in a positive situation and you experience positive emotions, that's wonderful. It's like a totally different situation. It's a totally different narrative. Fredrickson's build and broaden and build theory, this shows us that positive emotions cause upward spirals that result ultimately in your emotional well-being. And it also broadens your thought and action repertoire. So what do I mean by this? When you're experiencing positive emotions, you're more cognitively flexible. You're able to consider creative options to the solutions. You're no longer in this fight or flight mode. You're not just trying to survive, but you're in a position in which you can actually thrive, right? So it's important that we experience positive emotions. You think clearly, you're able to see the big picture. And as I mentioned before, you're cognitively flexible, so you can really respond optimally to challenging situations. And so if we're trying to enhance our experience of positive emotions, then one of the most important things is that you consider, what is the narrative that you're telling yourself? What are you telling yourself? You have to pay attention to this, as this directly affects your ability to stay resilient and come up with creative solutions in the midst of challenging situations. One of the tenets of cognitive behavioral therapy is that thoughts affect your feelings, which in turn affect your behaviors. So if you're thinking, for example, I'm not good enough, like this boss, he seems like terrible, and you might feel I'm not good enough. If you have this thought, then that will result obviously in negative emotions. You might feel anxious, you might feel fearful, not job security. And then what will happen, right? You will continue to feel insecure, and then you won't be able to act in a way that actually causes you to grow and thrive. You won't do things that cause you to have more opportunities at work. So your narrative, what you're telling yourself, is very, very important. Another thing you might be thinking in this situation is, I'm not valuable. Well, I want to tell you, your value doesn't depend on what others think. It doesn't depend on what your boss thinks. And it doesn't even depend on what you can do or what you can accomplish. Like you said before, for 10 years I was doing 16 hours a day. You were doing so much, but hey, now you have a kid and you're more limited. And that's perfectly okay. Your inherent value is because you are a person. It doesn't have to do with how much you can do, how much you can accomplish. You're talented. Another thing you might be saying is, oh, this situation is just gonna last forever. That's the thing, when you're in a negative situation, as I mentioned, you're not so flexible, so you can't see the big picture oftentimes. So you think this situation is never ever going to end, but I want to tell you, it is. This is just temporary, right? So have a more uplifted view, a more optimistic mindset. This negative situation is not going to last all the time. And so anyway, those are just a few things I want to leave you with. So let's just summarize the situation, what we talked about today. I hope it was helpful. We covered a few tips, a few ways to know when it's time to leave the job. So remember, your job is not helping you to realize your potential. It's even limiting your growth and your potential. Trust is an issue. You lack motivation, your health is suffering, you lack energy, and you have lots of negative feelings. If this lasts over a long period of time, it's time to change jobs. And another thing is, you want to limit as much as possible the experience of your negative emotions and enhance your feeling of positive emotions. In order to do this, it's important you pay attention to the narrative that you're telling yourself. Right? Don't accept the thoughts, I'm not worth anything, I can't do it, the situation's gonna last forever. No, tell yourself a different narrative. You are valuable, you are skilled. You just need to now be in an environment that recognizes that, in which you can grow and thrive and reach your potential. So thank you for watching this video. Remember to subscribe and hit the like button. I also have a little bit of capacity for some one-on-one coaching. Visit my website. I'll put all those links at the bottom in the comments of this video, and come back again soon for some more great content.